I'm in Zoom recording. So thank you all for being here this Monday evening. My name is Rebecca Dabbs. I am the COVID-19 health educator for the wonderful Al Wooten Jr. Youth Center. We are a nonprofit organization founded by Miss Myrtle Fay Rump in 1990 to honor her late son, killed in a drive-by shooting. The center focuses on free after school and summer programs for students ages or grades 3 through 12 in the South Los Angeles area, but we also provide workshops such as this for their community to help support them in every way we can. The Parent Power Group workshops are presented in partnership with the Green Foundation and other donors and can be found at thewootencenter.org/donors. Our workshops are held every Monday evening, 6 to 7 p.m. And our August topics are coming soon. We're just getting last minute confirmation, but we have some really excited speakers lined up for you. So tonight we are very privileged to have Miss Claudia Martinez. She is a health educator for the wonderful Breathe Southern California. She is a first-generation college student. She received her bachelor's in health science and a minor in child adolescent studies from California State University, Fullerton. And her passions include, sorry, I had to let somebody in. Her passions include mental health and community education. As a health educator at Breathe Southern California, she has the opportunity to help many low-income communities in Southern California with education and resources about lung health. In the fall, she will be attending the UCLA master's program. She'll be focusing on, she's a double major, public health and social work. So we are really happy that we got you before you went off and on to bigger and better and greater things. With that, Miss Claudia, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to stop sharing.
All right. Hi, everyone. Let me just get my screen working. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Does it say the vaping trend clearing the air?
I can see it. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to double check. You never know with this tech stuff. But hi, everyone. My name is Claudia Martinez. I'm a health educator with Breathe Southern California. And today I'll be talking about a topic that is really important, not only for ourselves and our families, but also it impacts the community. So we're going to be talking about vaping today. So just a little background on Breathe Southern California. We're a nonprofit organization. We have been around for well over 100 years, and we have dedicated programs and services that address serious air quality and lung-related public health challenges in Southern California. Our mission is really to promote clean air and healthy lungs through research, education, advocacy, and finally, technology. So just like a little FYI, I know this is a lot of information. When it comes to vaping, it's a huge topic. And I just want to let everyone know it's okay. We're learning together on this. I know you're going to have a lot of questions, but please keep those questions until the end of the presentation. And I will be so happy to address any of them. But feel free to also type it down, just in case you want to put it down. But all right, let's get started. So what is vaping exactly? So vaping is the act of inhaling an aerosol created by an electronic cigarette or an e-cig or other vaping devices. There are more vaping devices, and we'll get over that during this presentation. E-cigarettes or vaping products can be used to deliver nicotine, but also cannabis, so THC and CBD, other flavoring, chemicals, and other substances. So it is kind of a new field, a new topic, but we're learning every single day in order to provide that awareness and education to prevent any illnesses from these devices. All right, so let's talk about the evolution of e-cigarettes. I know it's so overwhelming. You see them everywhere. And let's just talk about how it started out. initially the e-cigarette was supposed to be a healthy alternative, and I hope everyone can see my air quotes, a healthy alternative. But in the end, big tobacco took this one product that was supposed to be good for everyone, air quotes, and turn it into something so different, something that it will affect future generations if we don't, if we don't learn anything about it. So let's talk about the first generation. The first generation is the cig-alike. Now the cig-alike is something that is kind of looks like a traditional cigarette, as you can see on the screen. So the cig-alike, it was supposed to have a good intention where a chronic smoker will utilize it and then they will stop their addiction. But with the cig-alike, it just became something brand new, and it was basically the baseline to future vaping devices. So we move along from the first generation to the second generation. And in this presentation, I will be showing devices just so you can have a better idea on how they look like in real life, aside from the photos. So the second generation that we have right here is a vape pen. So as you can see right here, the vape pen, it is considered as an e-cigarette that is rechargeable. So basically there is a little voltage right here that you can charge it. It also can be used as batteries. Comparing to the first generation e-cigarette, that's actually a one-time use. You have to throw it away. But with the vape pen, because you can open it and actually put different products inside, it's a little bit more easier to have this as a long term. Now, when it comes to e-cigarettes, the thing that you will learn the most is that there are two different styles on e-cigarettes. We have the cartridge style and also the tank style. This vape pen that I'm showing you is a tank model. So basically what needs to happen with this particular model is that the consumer needs to buy something called an e-juice, and I have it right here. An e-juice is pretty much a product that contains the nicotine and all these other substances in order for the vape to actually happen. So the consumer would just have to get the e-juice, put it in the tank, and utilize it just like that. So I will also show you the second type, the second style, and that would be the cartridge style. And it's mostly common on the fourth generation, but in order to be in order with the evolution, I'll continue on to the third generation. So I'll show you the second style soon. So because of the second generation becoming so popular, especially among adolescents, Big Tobacco actually created another type of device, and it's called the mod, tank or mod. It's interchangeable when it comes to the name. So basically, this particular device is supposed to be more attractive to more adults, people who have more experience on smoking. And the reason why is because they have the advantage of controlling the power, the density, and other different things, including the temperature of each vape. So that's why this one is pretty attractive for chronic smokers, as you can see. And the thing is with this design, a lot of parents tend to tell me that it's a gun, it's like a play toy, anything other than a cigarette. So something that needs to be acknowledged in this presentation is that no vaping device will look the same. There are so many different designs, and it's so important to be up to date with this information. Now, like I said before, I was talking about the second style when it comes to e-cigarettes. So we're going to get into it, which is the cartridge style. Now, the cartridge style is pretty much like this. A consumer just needs to buy a pod right here, pop it into the e-cigarette, utilize it, and then once it's done, just buy another one, and it's a never-ending cycle. So this particular brand that I just showed you is called Juul, and this is the one that's really popular with youth nowadays just because it's so discreet. Now, it looks like a USB, but I'm here to tell you it's absolutely not. If you see a USB trying to charge itself like this upright, most likely it's going to be an e-cigarette. And the thing is, there is also another brand that is very discreet, and I do want to share it with you today, and it's called Surin. Surin is really well known for their discreet products, and I will show two of them as an example. We have Surin Air, as you can see right here, and then Surin Drop. Now, I show this to a lot of parents and they just tell me different things. They can tell me it's lead pencil to like it's a case to hold lead pencil. Maybe this is just pretty much a whiteout for the kids, you know? No, they're vaping. So I'm just here to show you that every time, like when it comes to devices, you just have to be well aware of the information and the different designs. So I know that was a little bit overwhelming, but let's kind of bring it down a little bit on the common features of e-cigarette. So I will use the mod as an example just because it's a little bit bigger and you can see the different features in this particular design. So when it comes to an e-cigarette, all e-cigarettes have to have these features. We have the mouthpiece right here, the cartridge, the atomizer. The atomizer is really important just because it heats up all the e-juice. So in the cartridge, also the on and off button, and lastly, the battery. Now it really just depends on the battery. Sometimes there are e-cigarettes that use AA batteries. Other e-cigarette devices just use the lithium ions and you just have to like charge it. Now, this is something really pressing and really concerning just because we're going to talk about the amount of nicotine in a pod. I just showed a graph. It looks really scary, but I will actually explain what you're seeing right now. So when it comes to the amount of nicotine in a pod, there is no regulations. When it comes to the FDA, there are no e-cigarettes on the market that is FDA approved. Let's have that be known right from the start. But back in the day, actually when tobacco, traditional cigarettes were kind of coming out, like pretty much there was a lot of studies coming out with traditional cigarettes being bad for you, they actually put a cap on a pack of cigarettes. So the maximum of milligrams that a pack of cigarettes can have of nicotine would be 20 milligrams. Now with e-cigarettes, they're not traditional cigarettes. They're something completely different. So compared to one pack of cigarettes that have 20 milligrams of nicotine, let's compare it to one Juul pod. This actually contains 41.3 milligrams of nicotine. Just hold that in. That's actually 2 packs of cigarettes in one little pod. Now, when it comes to Fix, that's a different brand, but I will show you what it is. So we have the Juul right here, but we also have Fix pod. As you can see, Fix is a little bit wider, a little bit taller, and that one can contain 75 milligrams of nicotine. And lastly, a Surin pod, which I actually showed you an example of. This is the Surin drop. And this is pretty much where you can put all the nicotine in, the e-juice. And this can contain 90 milligrams of nicotine. So it's really important to just be aware on these differences. There are no caps when it comes to e-cigarettes. And of course, there are policies that are on the floor right now in certain states that are trying to put the cap on these e-cigarette capsules. Now, oh my God, this part right here, a lot of children, like adolescents, parents tell me, Claudia, chill. It's okay. These vaping devices are fine because what's coming out of it is water. If you learned something from this presentation today, take this, please. What comes out of these devices is actually aerosol, not harmless water vapor. Say it one more time. What comes out of these devices is aerosol. Now, aerosol is something very important. It's because it's something brand new too. We're learning about it every day. But basically, aerosol contains at least 10 chemicals on the California Prop 65 list, known, for a fact, known to cause cancer, birth defects, and other reproductive harm. So as you can see on the side of the presentation, I do have known chemicals. Those are actually the 10 that are on the California Prop 65 list, but also in the e-cigarettes. So, and that's one thing. Another thing is something that we've learned about in traditional cigarettes, but aerosol brings it up a notch. So with traditional cigarettes, we know about firsthand and secondhand, but let's do a recap of it. Basically with firsthand cigarette, it's basically what's happening, firsthand smoke. Basically what's happening is the person who's smoking, they're going to be affected by it. affecting all the fumes and everything. It's going in their lungs. Secondhand smoke is people who are around the smoker. They're going to get affected by it too. Now, with aerosol, with e-cigarettes, there is third hand, and that is something so concerning. Aerosol has a lot of chemicals in it that are carcinogenic. So basically what happened is just that aerosol doesn't completely disappear in the air. It falls down on surfaces, it can fall down on carpets, and it just doesn't leave. And the thing with this is because there's some people who think that it's just water vapor and they just smoke it anywhere they want, in the living room, in their bedroom. But what happens if a child's there and they're crawling and they're getting all of this stuff in their hands and they're not even aware of it? So it's very concerning about aerosol and e-cigarettes. Now, a lot of parents also tell me, Claudia, okay, you're scaring me with this information. Don't be alarmed. We're learning together. But also, what are some signs and symptoms? How will I know if a child is smoking near me or like maybe vaping in my home? Well, let's start by the artificial sweet smell. So I hope before the pandemic, maybe you guys went to Universal Studios and crossed that bakery and you get that sweet smell. That's the smell that most vapes actually emit in the air. Now, the thing with this is that the smell in particular disappears really quickly. However, the person that is utilizing the vaping device, they're going to have that scent all over their clothes. So it's going to be on their clothes, their hair, their everything that is near them. Whatever's near them, they're going to have that sweet smell. And you can tell there is a specific difference on it. Now, when it comes to health consequences, let's talk about dry nose and dry mouth. So constant chronic vapors, they tend to suffer from most nosebleeds and something called a vapor taunt. Now, this is specifically due to a chemical called propylene glycol, which takes out all the moisture from your nose and your mouth. Now, it's so important to realize this because sometimes these symptoms can last from 10 minutes to maybe like a few hours, but it's good to know. Now, something that is for a fact that we can know for a sign as for someone vaping in a household would be discarded pods, unfamiliar pens, chargers, USB drives that just doesn't look like a USB drive. It's really important to have that open communication with the adolescent or the person who is actually utilizing these devices. A lot of people, a lot of users don't know the health consequences when it comes to these vaping devices. So it's important to give them that information. But also, this is just completely bad for their health in the long run. And when it comes to adolescents in particular, of course, they're going through a kind of like a transition, and it can increase irritability, anxiety, mood swings, and also frequent headaches and nausea. Now, there are a lot of harmful impacts of vaping. Let's start with brain development. I kind of tapped into this a little bit, but when it comes to brain development, our brain doesn't stop developing until the age of 25. So imagine if a teen is actually using these vaping products, they're going to be stunting their growth in so many different ways. For example, changes in the way of synapses form, addiction, mood disorders, also reduces impulse control, and maybe also damaging parts of the brain that control emotions, learning, and also critical thinking. And there are other different consequences that can happen. For one, we are still in the pandemic, and let's talk about COVID-19. It has taken a lot from us, but it's going to be worse for people who vape constantly. So people who vape are more vulnerable to COVID-19 just because already their lung health is so weak for having all of those chemicals inside for so long. So teens who vape are 5 times more likely to test positive. Now, something that was happening back in November, October of 2019 was E-Valley. And E-Valley was electronic cigarette vaping associated lung injury. And basically what would happen is a lot of teens would go into the ER for suffering from symptoms like shortness of breath, coughing, fever, chills, heartbeat, you know it. And unfortunately, it cost a couple of few teens' lives. and also other lung impacts. Now, the long-term use of vapes and e-cigarettes can increase the risk of getting respiratory diseases such as asthma, COPD, and even cancer. So it's really just important in general to not even start with this typical behavior. And I will be talking about the mental health portions when it comes to specific vapes as well. Now, we're going to be talking about cannabis and marijuana. Now, it's the second most widely used substance among youth behind alcohol, but let's just talk about MJ marijuana. It refers to dry leaves, flower stems, and they're from the cannabis plant. And specifically, THC is the one that's pretty, um, it pretty mind boggles a lot of vapors, if that makes sense. But basically, with the THC, it's a mind altering chemical found in cannabis, and there are more than 500 chemicals. And imagine mixing THC with all the things that are inside an e juice already. So, particularly, some youth are actually experimenting and mixing these two. And not only that, they don't see how dangerous it is. It's like they forgot that these are two different chemicals that were not even supposed to be mixed up together at all. But just a little bit on when it comes to marijuana, there are different extracts. So we have the gooey liquid, we have the soft solid, so like wax, and then also a hard amber color. So there are always different forms of it, and there are other different names for cannabis in particular. Now let's talk about the mental implications when it comes to cannabis. When it comes to short-term impacts, it can alter the senses and also lose sense of time, change in mood, impaired body movement, and even difficulties of thinking and problem solving. Long-term impacts kind of may include difficulty of thinking and problem solving, impaired coordination, and maybe even difficulty maintaining attention. And that's going to affect a student in the school, not focusing on their subjects and maybe letting their grades fall. Now, the physical implications, it varies to every individual, whether it's mental or physical, it varies. But when it comes to lung health, inhaling the smoke can irritate the lungs and cause a lot of breathing problems. So, other physical implications can include increased heart rate. And of course, if you're not careful with these, high levels of THC can also affect a lot of things, specifically mentally. So, it could promote more nervousness, shaking, psychosis, and also hallucinations. So, stress. Now, I did say that I was going to cover mental health, and it's so important, especially during this time of our lives. With the pandemic, we all have endured something so different. Not every person had the same experience. So, of course, with kids, with that lack of connection with others and socials, it really just takes a toll. So it's so important to just check on your teens at home, your kids, and just ask them how they're doing. Relieving stress in a positive way goes a long way. So, for example, yoga, let's see, yoga, puzzles. I kind of blanked out a little bit. Also making bracelets. So there's a lot of things you can do other than smoking and vaping. There are other positive ways in order to like fortify our family relationships. So let's just talk about how teens tend to be exposed to these devices. And there are a lot of things. For example, personal relationships is one of the most frequent responses I get from actual teens. They tell me, oh yeah, like my cousin Jerry told me about this. He said it was cool. I want to be cool like him. So that's why it's so important for us to be good examples to all the kids in the community. Also, the thing about these devices comes the flavor options. As of right now, there are over 15,000 different flavors on the market for these type of devices. And if you want to like kind of think about it, it varies. It's not just like raspberry and blueberry. No, there's like different flavors like unicorn and chestnut, and even something culturally like for me, I love horchata, which is a cultural drink from my home country, and they actually made that to a flavor. So it's these corporations that are well aware who their consumers are. They know that it's young people, because if they get them young, they're going to have a long consumer for life. So when it comes to flavor options, of course, they're going to be giving more options so they don't get bored with the same 5 flavors. The harmless belief goes a long way as well. A lot of people think it's healthy, and it's not. This is not a healthy alternative at all, especially for growing children. So that's something that needs to be well known, especially the fact that it's not water vapor coming out of these devices, it's actually aerosol. Accessibility and affordability, I will definitely talk about that in the next slide, but celebrity influences is another thing that contributes to students and adolescents participating in this behavior. So ease of access. So this is particularly about accessibility. So there are 3 main ways on how a student or adolescent gets these devices. And for one, it's older adult, and it includes mom, dad, cousin, Aunt Becky, and Uncle Jesse, anyone who is at least 21 years old. They can actually get these devices and secondhand sell them. But really, older adults is one of the key main ways before the pandemic. There is another way, and I'll tell you which is the most popular way during this time in the pandemic. Retail locations. So retail location is another thing. Tobacco and vape shops actually have the highest rate of underage sales compared to other tobacco retailers. By other tobacco retailers, it just kind of means like a pharmacy, a gas station. Now, basically, these other tobacco retail centers, they actually check IDs. And now when it comes to tobacco and vape shops, they really don't care. They just want to make a quick buck, and that's it. It doesn't really matter. And lastly, the most popular one during this time, quarantine time, would be online purchasing. So as long as someone has a working computer, Wi-Fi, and a credit card, they are 94% successful in purchasing vaping products online. And something that a lot of things that the big tobacco corporations say is like, well, we have like a pop-up that says if you're not 21, you get kicked out. There's some people that lie. The pop-up is not enough for age verification. So there's that. So let's talk about environmental impacts. I know I'm covering a lot of information, but hang with me here. But let's talk about the community impacts. So these devices, like I said, they're not FDA approved. So of course, manufacturing of these devices is just very poor. So a lot of reports of exploding batteries and just like spontaneous like combustion happening with these is just very common as of now. E-liquid. Now, I showed a little snippet of an e-liquid, but this is an e-liquid, as you can see. Hopefully everyone can see. It's this particular device. But unfortunately, there has been reports of fatalities. And the thing is, it's with young children under the age of 5. Now, as you can see how the product is, you can see a little caricature, and it looks like a Sour Patch Kid, right? So picture a little kid knowing what a Sour Patch candy is and seeing this, they're going to automatically think that this is candy, only a smoothie version. And unfortunately, it just happens. They don't know what they're putting in their bodies, and it causes a lot of damage just because there are a lot of harsh chemicals, heavy metals in these particular products. Now, disposal. Disposal is something so important when it comes to these devices in particular. And I'm very proud of parents like telling me, Claudia, I threw it away. This is great. I always ask, how did you do it exactly? Because there is actually a specific way. Now, for one, as you can see, I'm wearing gloves just because these devices, like I said, they're poorly made. So a lot of the nicotine is just kind of going out, and the skin is not a tough barrier to prevent from those chemicals going in. So that's why I'm always wearing gloves. And I can even show one of my old gloves as an example. One of the vapes actually spilled into my little box, and now it's all drenched in nicotine. So that's fun to clean up. But as I will continue on, when it comes to the disposal of devices, please and forever always wear gloves or something, at least have a bag, something to have. But basically, place all e-cigarettes into a sealed container or leak-proof bag for safe storage. Please transport it to a hazardous waste disposal site, and of course, don't handle it with your bare hands. And also, don't throw any of the e-juice to the toilet, the sink, and don't throw the devices in the trash. There are some schools that actually support the anti-vaping regulations, and they actually have a box at their location. You could always check out different sites. And if you're interested, please feel free to email me at the end, and I will definitely send that specific link in order for you to see all these disposal sites, because they're everywhere in Southern California. Now, combating the issue, something positive. Let's talk about something positive. I know it's a lot of information, but let's talk about the positive stuff. So, California, we've actually been making moves when it comes to eliminating this issue. For one, Prop 56 and the legal age actually happened in 2016. But when it comes to Prop 56, it raised the tax on cigarettes by $2. And the thing is, most of the profits that are from this particular tax actually goes to prevention, education, to primary and secondary schools all over Southern California to prevent the next generation of smokers. The, the legal age is another thing. The legal age was 18 in 2016, but now it was moved to 21, and we've been having it since 2016. Senate Bill 39 is one of those regulations that was pretty good. It prevents the sale of e-cigarettes through the postal service. So what happens here is basically if someone were to order a vaping device online, what would happen is that the package needs to have a label saying there are e-cigarettes in here, there are chemicals in here. That notifies the carrier who will deliver the package to the home to obtain a signature from an adult who is at least 21. Now, if it's a kid that bought this, there's probably no way unless they have someone 21 there, but they would never get this package, because what would happen is that if they don't obtain a signature, the package goes back to the postal service and then it goes back to wherever it came from. And lastly, Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills implemented the most strictest regulation I've ever seen when it comes to tobacco. And they actually banned the sale of tobacco products in their city. Amazing. It's just completely the strictest out of like all of the United States. But of course, there's always that loophole. Beverly Hills is really, really tiny. So the residents can really just go outside the Beverly Hills lines, buy their products and go back. There's always a loophole. But the thing is, like, what's nice about it is that it occasionally works. And we're making moves from it. We're learning from it. We're seeing how it worked. We're seeing the loopholes, and we're making better regulations for future use. Now, it's a lot. I know I talked a lot about it, but let's talk about how you can take action. For one, getting all this information is just already a great start. Having the information, the knowledge, the baseline of it to just pretty much give out this information to others. Because this is not just only for us. No, we're going to share it out to our community. We're going to prevent another generation of smokers. And if you want more information, by all means, go for it. Find your local tobacco control coalition. Contact your local health department and find more information about it. You can check on the CDC, you can check World Health Organization, you can check a lot of different places that have information about vaping. You can even check Free Southern California. You can also talk about smoke-free policies, and that can be in your apartment complex, your house, condo association, anywhere, really. It's just having that message out there, because you're going to be an advocate within your circle, and that's going to impact at least one person. And when that person is already impacted and moved by how you're motivated to eliminating this particular epidemic, which is the vaping epidemic, it's going to cause waves. It takes time, but it causes waves. Now, talking to your kids about vaping. Now, this is something that always gets parents, staff members, anyone I talked about a little nervous, because you're going to have a conversation with a child about something that is very dangerous, actually. So first and foremost, before the talk, have all that information. Get that credible information from the CDC, the Surgeon General website, and just know the facts for sure and be ready for questions. Of course, the adolescent is going to be like, okay, what is this? What is that? What do you mean by this? But yeah, it's important to have that conversation, especially to a one-on-one. Step 2, always be patient and ready to listen. Encourage that open dialogue and avoid criticism. That's the last thing you want to do, to critique someone's response and statements. But it's okay that it gets awkward in this conversation. It happens bits and pieces, but what's important is that you're firm with your message, and that the overall message is that no child, no teen, no adult should ever be using this device, these vaping devices. So step 3, start the conversation. Use open-ended questions like, what do you think about vaping? Has anyone offered anything to you? Let's talk about this. And set clear expectations, of course. Like, explain why. We learned a lot of reasons why we should not vape at all. And especially when it comes to an adolescent, it stunts their growth. You're wasting money. There's so much health consequences that we're still learning from today. So why put everything that you don't know in your body? And lastly, step 4, if you're nervous to even start this conversation, it's completely okay. You can always ask for support. Ask your healthcare provider to have some tips about this. This is overwhelming. And also talk to supportive adults in your life. Ask your friends from yoga or school, work, have that open conversation. It's important to always talk it out in order to prevent any health consequences when it comes to these devices. But as you can see here on this screen right here, it's a lot of information. Feel free to take a picture of it or screenshot it. But basically, it's just a lot of tools and resources for you just to check up on if you're interested in learning more about e-cigarettes. I only scratched the surface with this presentation, but there is so much to learn. So by all means, please go right in it and learn more. So feel free to go to the CDC, the Partnership to End Addiction, even the US Surgeon General. But also, I want to put a highlight on teen stress and mental health. This year has been hard on everyone. There are free hotlines here just in case there is a need for them, a free teen crisis hotline. There's also a toolkit when it comes to the American Psychology Association, how to help your child or teen to manage stress in a positive way, building resilience, and teening your parent. And I'm almost done, everyone. I'm almost done. So before you go, I do have a survey. I know it's a survey, but I swear it's a small, quick survey that you can take. You can either take a picture with your phone of the QR code that you see there, or you can just screenshot your screen right now and just get that website. Just copy and type the website in Google, and then you'll get the form. But really, if you do this, you can get a gift card, a free gift card if you participate. I swear it's less than 10 questions, and it's about pretty much your experience with this presentation. So this is pretty much it on the presentation. Thank you so much. I will be answering all your questions, but yeah, thank you so much for listening. I know it's a Monday. We're all kind of tired. I mean, post weekend, but you know, we made it, everyone. Thank you so much. Rebecca?
Thank you, Claudia. That is great. I'm sure that we have some some questions from our attendees, so I don't want to interrupt. Does anyone have any questions right now? I'm gonna just pull up the screen. Yes, Miss Alberta.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
I had a statement. I had went on a vacation with probably about 20 people. We were staying in this timeshare. And one of the girls' brothers had a vaping thing in his backpack. I didn't know. It caught on fire. And it was just random. And it caught on fire. It was in his backpack and it damaged the floor. So of the Airbnb. And but I was thinking we had went to Washington, DC. So he transported this in his like backpack. It could have caught on fire in the airplane.
Yeah.
So it was the weirdest thing, but so it's really dangerous.
Exactly, Alberta. It's absolutely dangerous. And just like I said, these products are not FDA approved, of course. So of course, manufacturing is just really poor. I mean, these corporations are trying to make a quick buck. It really does not matter how they make it. As long as they make it and they sell it, boom, that's it. They make their profit. So really, you just have to really be careful. And these spontaneous combustions often happen. It's so sad for me to say it, but this is not the only story I've ever heard. And I've actually seen it once happen before. It was just completely crazy. But I really do appreciate you sharing your story. Thank you so much.
Very scary. Miss Claudia, I have some few questions for you from the chat, but I was wondering, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Can you go back to the contact information and QR code? We have some people asking if we could see that again, to have it up there, the survey, and then your contact information as well. And while you're doing that, if I could ask the attendees, if you all could, I forgot to ask at the beginning, can you please put your name and your zip code into the chat for a virtual check-in? We like to see how many people, how many community members we reach for each of our presentations. So that would be really appreciated. And as they're doing that, Claudia, there was a question about kids watching a lot of YouTube influencers, and what is something that people, parents, mentors, guardians should be looking out for?
Yeah, when it comes to the celebrity influence, that's something you just can't prevent. Obviously, when it comes to, it's a celebrity's decision whether they want to promote it and stuff. But as a parent, and it's specifically, let's talk about YouTube, you do have control when it comes to parental rights. So meaning like you can actually control what can be seen on YouTube. There is a specific feature that you can do. You can block out specific names. For example, if your kid wants to type in vape tricks or vape competitions, you could just have that in those banned words, and then boom, they won't see it. But I think like the best way to prevent it is just really having that open conversation with your child about this topic. I know it's very uncomfortable. I completely understand it, but it's better to know what they're feeling about it and just kind of confronting the situation little by little, just kind of going at it, telling your reasons why this is a bad product, why it affects their health on the long run. And of course, they're going to be wasting money and wasting precious time. So there are a lot of reasons why there is no good reason to actually do it. There isn't any, absolutely. But yeah, when it comes to YouTube, parental.
That's you brought up a term that I was not familiar with: vape tricks, vape competitions.
Yeah.
What do I want to know what that is? I mean, I think it's important we talk about it, but I've never even heard of that.
Definitely. It was really popular before COVID because it was happening before COVID. Now it's just kind of stunted out from my research. But basically, what would happen, and I would always have this in the presentation at times, but the thing is that these big tobacco corporations, they actually promote competitions and events to see if people can do cool tricks. For example, if you can do a tornado with the vape, or who can hold the vape, the aerosol longest in their throat and their lungs and everything. And it's a complete mess. But the thing is, what attracts a lot of participants is the cash prize, scholarship, cars, free merch, everything. So it was completely dangerous. As of right now, I haven't seen any competitions, but I would not be surprised that it just resurfaces eventually.
That is really scary to think that they would incentivize a college education from doing something that's so detrimental to their health and the health of the people around them as well. You're talking about firsthand, secondhand, and thirdhand smoke, and the impact that it has just is not done and gone. It really stays with you. It stays on your clothes. It stays in your hair. It's just, and you talked about, babies and infants. If you had smoked an hour ago and you held your baby or your friend's baby, they could be smelling it from your hair. That is really a scary thought, and an interesting topic that you brought up. So I'm going to go through the chat and see if there's any other questions, any other comments. Has anyone had this conversation with their youth and wants to maybe share their experience and what helped them, or maybe something that they wish they would have done different? If you want to be so generous with sharing. Sure.
My name is Alex Romero. I just want to make a comment.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I was reading, I called in sick today. So I was just reading different articles on social media, and there was something interesting that I read, and I'm pretty sure it also has to do with vaping. But COVID definitely changed the dynamic of people working from home. More people who were working from home started taking drugs and abusing alcohol, right? And this is more middle-aged people based on the article that I read. And so I'm sure, and so now with everyone having to go back to work, people are definitely going to be hiding it or try to extend working from home longer. But I wanted just to make the comment that if that's happening with drugs and alcohol, I'm sure it's happening with people. If children or teenagers are hiding the vaping, I'm pretty sure adults will be too, just because that's something they probably became addicted to during the pandemic.
Yeah, I like completely understand when it comes to going through something, especially during the pandemic. We all went through something. We don't have all the same experiences, but we can choose the correct way into how to cope with these difficult challenges. And drugs, alcohol, vaping, it's not the solution at all. And unfortunately, there has been a rise on that. And I wouldn't be surprised to see more studies when it comes to declining mental health and the pandemic. But yeah, I really do appreciate you sharing that article, because it is a fact, especially with these platforms that we have nowadays, like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. There are a lot of avenues in how big tobacco can promote all of these particular devices. And not only that, but also people who constantly use it tend to post pictures about it, use hashtags, hashtag vape life, hashtag this, hashtag that. And it's free promotion for the companies without them knowing that they're participating in that. But yeah, it's a lot to cover. But thank you, Alex, for even sharing that article. I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, one thing comes to mind too, Alex, that you brought up that Claudia was talking about earlier, is that how important it is that we model that behavior that we want our youth to adapt. So if you are vaping and you are, coping with stress, in a way that's not healthy for you, your kids are going to learn, and the children in your lives, the youth, whether you mentor, you're an aunt, you're an uncle, you're a friend, they're going to model what you show them, how you process that. So no shame, right? We all have to start somewhere, but just maybe take some time to reevaluate, like, is this not only best for me, is this best for my community as well and my loved ones? And do I want my babies to be responding to stress this way, or do we want them to do something more beneficial to their mental and physical health as well? Ms. Claudia, we have a question. Can you move to the slide to your
Contact information?
please?
Got it.
Thank you.
Perfect. Right here. Okay, contact information.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, Miss Claudia, I'm definitely going to use the copy of this video as soon as Rebecca uploads it.
You know I will
For
tonight.
for my son. I said, one of the good things for us about being at home, he did 9th grade. He missed the second half of 9th grade and 10th grade, so we're going in as 11th grade. So he wasn't being as influenced by school, but they're going back. So
I'm back.
you know, I think having him look at this video will be great also. And then he'll hear me talking on the video about it and be completely mortified.
Now, honestly, when it comes to that, we just hope that our teens are level-headed. Always have that conversation with them, whether it's even about vaping or talking about like how they're doing in life. Like now that we're transitioning back into like schools and work and stuff, it's gonna be a transition. It's gonna be a little bit scary, but always talk to them. Make sure that there's that open communication. Like Rebecca said, no shame at all, because we're gonna avoid criticism and we're gonna focus more on empowerment. That's what we should do in every conversation, especially with our adolescents and teens, children in our lives.
And with ourselves, right?
Exactly, Rebecca. And with ourselves.
We got to be nicer to ourselves and accept our failures and not see them necessarily as failures, but learning opportunities so we can be better people for our youth. Thank you, Ms. Claudia, so much for being here. I'm going to swap screens with you, and we really appreciate you taking time. She shared with me, folks, that this is going to be her last presentation before moving on to graduate school. So we really lucked out. Your passion is very evident, and I know that you're going to do amazing things in the future. So it's really good to have you here and share all of your resources and information. I know that you said that maybe we could take a snapshot of all those resources, and I don't want to ask too much of your slides, but if there's a way that we could maybe get an image of that slide and then I could send it out to the participants so they could have it. Sometimes it's easier to have something like in your inbox because, you know, life happens and you're not thinking about it, you accidentally delete it or you lost the paper it was written on. That would be really helpful.
Of course, yeah, and I'll also include an infographic. That's pretty much a PDF. We would pass it on to like health fairs and stuff, but
Oh, yes.
yeah, I will definitely send it. It's pretty much a recap of what I talked about, but also I did see a comment. Thank you, everyone. Everyone's so kind. They're saying like, oh, you guys are the best. But also this program, Clearing the Air, we also do have three different types of presentations. We have for parents, staff members, whether it's a community level, school level, we do like staff presentations that we go more into regulations and rules, but I also do have a student presentation. So if you have a school that think that would benefit from this presentation, by all means, send them over to me. You have my contact information.
Before you leave.
Before I leave, we still have time.
All right, fingers crossed that we share this information because I think it's incredibly valuable, and we really need to remind the youth that we're just trying to empower them and give them like good tools to be successful and healthy young adults. And I think that this is going to help supplement that. So thank you so much being here. And thank you all for joining us. If you haven't done the virtual check-in, please put your name and zip code in the chat so we could see how much we're impacting the community and making sure we're giving you all content that is important to you and will help mitigate the impact of COVID-19. So as the COVID-19 health educator, I just want to remind everybody, if you haven't been watching the news, COVID-19 cases are on the rise. LA County has mandated that masks are required for indoors regardless of vaccination status, and vaccines are still available. If you need a ride to a vaccination site, the Department of Public Health has a vaccine call center that you can call. It's 833-540-0473. They're open 8 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. 24/7. All you have to do is call 211 or call that number or go to vaccinatelacounty.com for more information. And lastly, if you were unfortunate to have contracted COVID-19, these are some long-term symptoms that you should be aware of, just kind of to be aware. Fatigue or tiredness longer than a few weeks after your diagnosis, any muscle pain, any headaches, difficulty breathing, cough, memory, concentration, or sleep problems, maybe an irregular heart, pounding heart, or fast heartbeat. If you never got your sense of taste or your smell back. And also COVID can impact your mental health. It's associated with some depression and anxiety. So this is something that you should go and seek assistance from your primary care physician, a clinician, to kind of let them know, so you all can watch it together to make sure that it doesn't get any worse. And just another reminder, y'all, get vaccinated as soon as you can. Do it for yourself, do it for your loved ones, and do it for the community. And that is it tonight. We really appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much, Claudia. Thank you to the community for joining us. We're here to serve. We're happy that you could join us.
I was happy to be here. Thank you everyone so much. And feel free to contact me if you have any additional questions or you need resources. I am here for you.
You're the best. Thank you. Good night, y'all. Have a good one. Have a great week. Be safe. Wear your masks.